It's YouTube Wednesday, Dungeon Victim. This happens to be one of the Home Depot click, pose, and stay skeletons. I'm not using it for that. I'm just using it as a skeleton. I always save these try me buttons. I don't know why, but I always save them. But I don't want the hands on this right now. Hand off. These hands have always sucked. This is carpet protector. Like when contractors are coming to work on your home, you put this down over the carpet. It's adhesive on one side, kind of. Not sticky on the other side. I just want to wrap this around. I like it because it's nice and thick. It'll also heat gun down nicely. And I've just done that leg. I'm gonna do this whole body this same way. Now, a blowtorch would make this go faster, but not something I'd want to do inside. If I was doing like a spider cocoon body, I would just pose the skeleton and wrap it posed, but I'm not. So I bought this originally for this project, but I've used it for other things. I think I did the math on it, and I can get like 12 skeletons out of this. If there are fumes coming off of this, you're heat gunning too long in the same spot. You should not smell any fumes or have any issues like that. I said this before, I want this to be a corpse. I don't necessarily want this to be a skeleton. And that means that I want to keep some meat up in here. I don't want to just wrap the spine in flesh. There is no flesh on the spine, it's just muscle. Had a big overlap there, I just cut that web. Okay, now you can see I'm getting some nice texture on there. I'm getting some sinewy looks, all from that heat gun, wilting that plastic, and that's nothing new, but it sure does look cool. I want it to tighten up and harden. That's what I want. There's all that extra plastic right there balled up. It's not a problem, that's a bicep. Robert has fallen into a pattern of being here the whole weekend. You're here like almost as much as I'm here. Looks pretty good. I gotta tighten this up. I'm ready for the next stage of corpsing this.
basic Halloween stuff and how to grow your channel.
So what I'm doing is I'm gonna pull the skeleton out. Then I can just corpse it again, but I'll have this whole body. I'll have this whole body and I got a free corpse. Still have the skeleton. Just have to cut down to the bone. This way it really feels like you're skinning a person. I'm just taping it back together. Just using the clear tape to just put it back together. I think I will. I'm gonna put some wire in here and that way it's fully posable. Let's grab some wire. This is like my favorite kind for prop making. The kind you use for drop ceilings. You get 50 pieces of it in 6-foot lengths and that's $25. It'll last me a good while. Some of these in here make the body nice and posable. So if I use 1, 2, 3 wires for this, so I could get 16 bodies out of this wire, if that's all that I use it for. You probably knew I was going to use Loctite. It's just hard to beat this stuff. Just gonna lock in that wire and give a little more body to this body. And I think I want to glue this up with hot glue. So I'm gonna grab the glue gun. This is the shape that I just made. This is gonna be inside of the body. And if I wanted to hang it by the head or something, it's not gonna pull out. It's hooked in. Moving the head of a corpse is pretty important because you want it to look a certain direction or have its head a certain tilt. So 2 wires to control the neck, and then this goes into the head and helps fill out that big space. A single wire in the neck is just not enough most of the time. And if it is, your wire might be too thick. So my goal is not to fill this whole corpse with Loctite foam. You could do that, but I don't want to use any more than like 1 can on this guy. A, I don't want to drive the cost up, and B, I just don't need to. The skin we made is pretty thick. I thought the glue might be faster. I still think it probably is. I didn't want the texture of the flat tape. Once it's all sealed up, I want more foam in an area. I can just poke a hole in it with a knife, insert the straw, and just add a little more. So I'm not worried about that. So I'm using a material right now that might take a little longer, but in the long run will save me the time in paint. I'm just making stitches with the hot glue holding that together. A, it's the back, but B, it also adds texture. Often I buy new stuff because it's impractical for me to think that you guys can find the same things in the garbage that I find. So, but if I buy it new, I know you can make it from scratch. And if I don't give you an exact materials list, I know that you will find what works and improvise and maybe use things you already have. This is in my garbage. Do I technically need to stuff this? I really don't. But it will just kind of be nice to have that in there. And then I'm using less foam and my body is a little more full. This is what I really love doing. It's like making garbage monsters. See, we're working our way up the body, slowly but surely. This is looking like a corpse. This has to hold-ish together, and it will. I gotta put a little moisture in here because if I were to put this into the plastic and then seal it up really well, what happens is the foam just thinks, okay, I'm back in the can, and it won't expand or kick. It uses moisture from the air, and that's why I use water all the time with this foam. I'm adding the moisture that it needs. That's all spray foams. So I lost facial features. He's a little flat in the torso. I don't think I'll get what I want out of this can, so it's time to go to can 2. That just means that I have to get both hands and his head and chest that I'm doing out of this can. On the bottom of every can is a date, and that was the date that this was made, 11/30/21. So this is roughly 2 years old. Now I'm not wetting this because I want it to stick really well. That looks terrible. Doesn't have to look good now. It's gotta look good when I'm done. I've just sprayed it with water, and that means I have to wait 5 minutes until I can touch it. If I touch it now, it'll stick to my fingers. I'm downplaying these so they look less like marshmallow fluff lines I put on here. A little more like ribs. They kind of blend in to the body a little more. I wanted them prouder than they were, proud meaning raised. I wanted them prouder to stick out a little more than they did in just the plastic. I was not meticulous in my heating up of the plastic. I'm not a meticulous person. Okay, let's fix this mess. Now, I didn't take that blob off of there when I started, and that caused a lot of the drag that I got. If I would have just cleaned that off before I went instead of being impatient, I would have had a little bit cleaner lines. Mad Magazine either used to or still does put out like a Monsters issue every year. It was all monster jokes and cartoons and stuff, and I got those pretty religiously for like 10 years in a row, from like 9 to 19 or so. And there's always a cartoon of like 2 or 3 guys in a dungeon, and they're really skinny and they're hanging. This body, just the way it's posed, yeah, reminds me of them. So this guy will never be called handsome. That's okay, because he's dead. Also, this is a very weird angle. If you make an ugly corpse, you just give it a big beard. That hides most of the face. Beards are easy. Your corners of your mouth should always come to where your pupils are. Your nostrils should stay to the corners of the eyes. If your nostrils are way out here, that's just way too wide. Before I put ears on him, I want to see if I have enough left in that second can. I'm not gonna go 3 cans on this. That's too much money, considering he's gonna be a hanging up, walk by thing. I don't wanna put $1,000 in this. Step 1, I wanna get these guys a little more contained. Also, I'm perfectly fine with these hands being very skeletal. I want to make this smaller, so as I'm bunching, I'm gathering it together so I can make it less wide. Do you have to make hands? No. There are actually lots of good hands on the market. I want to show you guys how I make this into a skeletal finger. Skeletal fingers have a pointy end of the phalange, they have a knuckle, and they have another knuckle, and in between that are thin phalange bones that are just thin, almost like tubes. So I'm going to get my pointy part, pointy. I do that, I made a knuckle. I do that, I made another knuckle. And right here is another knuckle. Pointy, knuckle, knuckle. And this I just gotta pull in. This knuckle should be smaller, just compress it more. There was hot glue on that. Again, I didn't use clean plastic. This one I've already done a little bit. I'm working in these bones that you can see. Okay, get that guy out of the way. Let's work on this one. Pointy, knuckle,
Go for Alan.
knuckle, pointy, knuckle, knuckle, pointy, knuckle, knuckle. Okay, I now have 2 skeletal hands. One is better than the other. Hero hand. This is how he died. Someone smashed his hand in a vise. See, we're telling stories over here. And that's the attitude you kind of have to have a little bit. So I'm not going to fight to remake it. Bad news though, I have enough foam to make ears. Are ears gonna make this look any better? No. Could they make it look worse? Absolutely. Here we go. I consistently make the left ear too high. Buying a corpse like this from a haunt vendor, it would be a better looking corpse, it would be a higher quality corpse, and it would be almost $1,000. So making one for $35, that's something I would do. I could have traced my hand and used that as a guideline, but I didn't. The ear shouldn't come down past the nose. If it does, there's, it's long. Any spray adhesive will work. This happens to be spray Weldwood contact cement. Any spray adhesive would work. Just giving a little more tooth for spray paint to grab onto. Bought a new type of spray paint. Never used this before. Saw it at Home Depot. Max Flex, multi-surface. It says vinyl. Normally, spray paint makes any kind of vinyl sticky. I don't have any vinyl on here, but let's play with it. If this were going outside, I might spray a coat of Flex Seal or Leak Seal over the whole thing, just to seal it up a little better. I'm cutting a ping pong ball in half. I'm gonna use that for eyes. Make sure you test fit your eyes multiple times to ensure they fit. I mean, I didn't, but you probably should. Just laid in some eyelids with the hot glue. Remember, this guy is hanging. This paint isn't bonding it better than any other spray paint. Thank you, Monster Fairy. You're the best. My wife comes in, this is yours. Okay? I'm gonna say there's nothing special about this spray paint. This is the third can I looked at. This is satin brick. If you're gonna test a new spray paint, always test it on the crotch. Have you heard of baby face knees? No, there are no teeth in that mouth, but I'm just gonna fake it. Great. So far, I doubled up the rope so I could get twice the winding, you know, fast. People will assume this whole weird hump is rope, when really it's his hand glued to his stump. Putting a loop in the center, and that is my sturdy hang point. So let's figure out some hair for this guy. I think I'm going with wool, my favorite. What I haven't done is I haven't bothered to make him like gross, but you can always spray him down and stuff on set. Now the more full and glorious a beard you lay on him, the better he will look. And keep in mind how bad that face looked. But now that it's got paint on it, we're hairing it, it's becoming passable. Once you go eyebrow, you have to go mustache. I find this type of wool a little wispier than I like for like werewolves and stuff, but I think it's working great. I think this is a Berwick top is what they call this. Normally I'd cut the middle of that, but this is the back of this guy's head, and I want him to appear a little wild. I want to do a little bit of posing on him. I want his legs a little bent. I want his head to look down. Have we got any spray bottle grossness? This is just some acrylic paint and water, but it does do a lot as far as making him look a little nasty. And then I'm gonna grab a light color spray paint like this almond and just dust his clothing. There he was. Doesn't have to be this. Paint him any way you want. This could be a scarecrow. This could be any kind of a corpse. You could do it fresher and bloodier. You could do it older and dried out. But you have a lot of options with making super cheap bodies. Go make stuff.
Time for some Patreon shout-outs. Thanks so much, Roger McCauley Jones, Durandal Rowland, Clever Gypsy, Jim Harrington, Jeff Schreiner, Alex, and Steve Leva. Thank you to all our new patrons and subscribers. All your continuous support means the world to us. As always, go make stuff.